Word.
Let's go.
What's up, Albert? How are you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing good. Doing well. It's a typical Monday, accounting stuff. And man, I just had a really good weekend and I'm looking forward to this week. Um, I'm looking forward to your deal that you got under contract with your client.
Yeah,
So that um I replied to your email, but anyways, it's going good, man. I just can't tell you how good this last weekend was, and I'm really looking forward to this week.
it is. And I love this time of year. It's getting busier and it's slowing down at the same time. I know that doesn't make sense when I say it, but um, it feels fresh. Heading into the new year, it's always a good time to recalibrate our mindset, review on what we've accomplished, what we've learned throughout the year, and that's really what our focus is right now, really just getting focused on the bigger picture. So there's a lot of growth in the industry right now.
Mhm.
There's a lot of weird stuff happening too, a lot of unknowns, but it is a good time to be in real estate. Um, and we're gonna break that down today. So any big wins from you for the last week?
Yeah, man. Um, well, we're getting closer to closing on one of our new construction properties. So that closes on December 3rd. So 2 weeks from what this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner. They're doing the appraisal is happening right now this afternoon. So that'll be done. And man, if they can get that back by like in a couple days, maybe we
Hmm.
might get clear to close by Friday or early next week. Next week's kind of Thanksgiving. So hoping we can close next week. But we got an offer on the second property. And
Congratulations.
yeah, so we got an offer, we countered, and then we just kind of did the whole Chris Voss thing. We split the difference. So we
Okay.
met in the middle, and now we're just waiting on our agent to write it up. And so we're really excited about that and potentially closing on that one on December 17th, which is about 30 days from now.
Very good.
That'll be great, man, if we can close out both of those properties, in December or mid-December. We're ready to get started on our duplex, so that'll be starting in a week or two in the Sunnyside area. Once we close out of these two properties that I just told you about, we'll be starting on three new builds in
Get
like
it.
the Edo Eastwood area. So we met with our builder on Friday. He's ready to go. And I know our lenders are ready to go too, and partners are ready to go. So
So with the rapid acceleration with new construction, one thing that we're seeing in the bigger market is that construction overall has slowed down quite a bit. How do you see that? Do you feel like, building the smaller units that there's an opportunity there? Because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but this year in Houston, 1 out of 3 houses that sold were brand new builds.
mm, yeah. I will tell you, depending on the builder, I hear two things. So I hear one builder saying, build duplexes, build more higher density things if you can on your lots. And I hear another builder, like the one that we're using, saying, man, I've been getting a lot of requests to build more single family
Okay.
stuff. And so we're kind of doing both. We're going to
Yeah.
build a duplex and we're going to build some single families, but it really just kind of depends on the area, depends on what is selling there. We're not going to go build in areas where they're already not doing this, but we're also like underwriting our numbers a little bit lower because of
Hmm.
the inventory that's probably going to be online by the time we're done.
Yeah.
I mean, and in new homes, honestly, I think I saw some kind of stat saying that newer construction homes, the average price for those is actually lower than
Resales.
resales. Yeah.
That's
So
kind of like
like
cars.
resales are more expensive now than the newer homes. So that's pretty interesting. Uh, uh,
Do you think that has more to do with demand that just, or I mean, what do you think is playing into that? Is it the cost of building is just
I think what happened and kind of it happened a little bit for us too, where these first two we built was, there's just a bunch of inventory and there's a bunch of new inventory that's online. And so builders are having to kind of drop prices and give incentives
Mm,
and to just get done and move on to the next thing.
okay.
I mean, when we first underwrote these properties, we were about 20 to $25,000 more per property than what we actually sold them for,
So it goes
you
back to
know?
the inventory surplus.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I think so. And then, you've got a brand new home, right? And you've got builders that are giving incentives and dropping their prices, and they're working with lenders that are offering 4.99%
Yeah.
loans. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? With virtually no money out of pocket and no PMI. Like those are the kind of incentives when you're working with the right agents. They've got these relationships with these local banks. They can offer these types of loan products out there to get their
Yeah.
property sold.
It's the principle of what gets the deal done is not what makes the money. It's like selling gas at a gas station. The gasoline doesn't actually have profit into it.
Right.
It's the peanuts and popcorn and the beer and
Yeah.
everything like that.
For us, it was a proof of concept, and out of this whole first experience was we linked up with a really good builder,
Yeah.
and that for us is going to pay dividends, down the road.
So you have a builder that knows their numbers, knows how to get the best price for material and labor and
Right. And like now what we do instead of me going at it alone or just trying to figure this out on my own is I'm taking the builder with me to go take a look at lots. I'm running the numbers by the builder
smart.
first before I'm making offers on anything. Right. So he's helping me kind of understand. And now I know that there's other costs that are associated with building a property besides just the material to build it. Like you got to get the land cleared. If you want
Hmm.
to get it replatted, you got to get it replatted. You have to get soil tests. All those things cost money and take time. And the time essence of that is the interest that you're paying
Yeah,
on these loans, right?
that makes sense.
So knowing that now up front, I can underwrite these properties a little bit better.
That's good. No, it's good. It's good to have that. And dude, keep us posted. We may be missing out. That's a really great strategy to be thinking about, even when it doesn't seem to be a strong area of the market right now. There are still people like you that are winning in that
So
area.
building to sell, just one more thing I'd like to say on this as far as new construction goes. So we're building to sell right now because right now we're at a point in our business where that's what we really need to do.
Hmm.
But we are really looking at building to rent as well. So building properties instead of going to go rehab a property, building a duplex in an area that supports our business plan, our long-term business plan, our buy and hold business plan. We'll just build the property instead of renovating it if it makes sense. So we're looking into that too instead of going in and trying to rehab a house where your numbers can get blown up really quickly, because you can't really see in the walls and things
Yeah,
like that, right? So building has become for us this experience, the actual construction part was a lot faster, very, very, what is it? We knew exactly what we were going to do.
yeah,
The budget did not go over, at least the construction budget did not go over. Like the construction budget our builder gave us was the exact amount that we paid him,
yeah.
period.
Not
And there were
a
no overages.
limit of surprises. It sounds like you have a system, a process.
Yeah,
And then now you can start to kind of duplicate to a certain degree. There's going to
yeah,
be unique variables in every deal, obviously, but
yeah.
there's a certain amount of duplication. You and I need to keep talking about this because this is an area where your world and our world can definitely collide. Today is one of my favorite topics to discuss. If you're on the call, you're lucky to be here right now because what we're going to talk about today is we're going to take big dreams and break it down into actionable steps. And we're actually going to break down into some of the numbers that I will tell you some of the most powerful numbers in real estate that we look at a daily basis are numbers that a lot of people they're not able to communicate or they're not looking at or they just plain out don't understand. And so your takeaway before you get off this call today, you will want to know what I believe, and I think Albert agrees with me, but if not, we can definitely debate this. But what I believe is probably the most powerful metric in real estate. We're going to break into it. So 2 weeks ago, we started talking about or last week, the 401, setting goals. First question for anybody listening to this call, and you're welcome to leave a comment on Facebook, or if you're on the Zoom call, you're welcome to 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 leave a comment on Facebook. What is your big, hairy, audacious goal, your BHAG for 2026? Some of you may have goals of acquiring a certain amount of units. Some of you may have a certain goal of buying a certain amount of properties with a certain amount of volume. So we're going to talk about what I think is probably the North Star. So big goals. What do you hear, Albert? When you talk to clients, we're going to divide like what's a good big goal as a real estate investor? What's a good goal, and what are goals that people typically have that are not good?
So the good goals that people have, at least for like our students, because they're trying to achieve financial freedom, and like kind of exit the rat race. So
Hmm.
they'll kind of start with, well, what's my current income like?
Hmm.
And that's a good number to start with, and because that kind of supports their current lifestyle, right? Like
Hmm.
their savings, their donations, their giving, their vacations, their college funds, all of their expenses, all those things they can kind of sum up with, well, I currently make, let's say, $100,000 a year or $120,000 a year, you know, before taxes. And so we live comfortably off that, right? Then maybe, I don't know, whatever. We'll just put that number out there. So that's about $10,000 a month,
Yeah.
you know. So that is kind of like that question we ask our students, like, what's your financial freedom number?
Right.
You know, and most people are a little bit lower than I think what they really, could really enjoy life and live life on their terms with.
Hmm.
At one point in time, for me, it was like $5,000. So like, okay, like $5,000 is probably more than enough from me for my portion into our family budget, where we could go on vacation. Because my wife works too. Like we're a dual income household, but we can do all those things with just like 5 grand. But it's like, well, how much more impact can I have on my community
Right.
if we made $10,000? If I made ten thousand
You're
dollars a
talking
month?
about monthly income.
Yeah, I'm talking about monthly income. So we're talking about like this cash flow that comes in, right? So that's kind of where our students land.
Yeah.
That's a good number to work with. Then you kind of have the other side, right? These vanity numbers, like, well, I want to have 20 doors.
Right.
Okay, well, like, and there's no really thought into it. It's just like, I want to own 20 doors, or I want to accumulate as many doors as possible, without really understanding, well, number one, the amount of work that goes into acquiring the
Yeah.
properties, managing the properties, maintaining the properties, and then how much cash flow are you getting per property, right?
Right.
Because there's a big difference between getting $1,000 per door and $150 per door,
Yeah.
right? Like how
Yep.
much I would work a lot harder and appreciate that $1,000 per door, and know that I don't need that many. I just need 10, right, to get to my
Yep.
number,
Yeah.
right? So those are kind of some of these North Star examples that our students kind of bring to us.
100%. So if someone were to say, "Hey, my goal is to acquire, 25 doors or 50 doors in 2026." My response to that would be, "Why? Why do
Yeah.
you want to do that?" And I would hope that somebody that has thought about it would say, "Well, because that should produce a certain amount of cash flow." I'm
Right.
like, "Okay, why don't you just make that cash flow number your goal?" So, so I would say yes. Cash flow is probably a much better North Star to start with than how many doors. So if your goal is to increase your income by 100,000 in 2026 or $10,000 a month, that's good. I would probably challenge that a little bit more because I think income is very important. Um, However, I think there's something else more important than income, and that's net worth. Would you agree, or does it
I
depend
think
on
it
more on the
depends
context?
on your stage in life. I think someone who's in their 50s, I think income is probably going to be a little bit, especially if they're just getting started, right? In the fifth, and they're in their 40s and 50s, then I think income probably may outweigh net worth a little bit.
Yeah.
I think if you're in your 20s and 30s though, and your investment time horizon is much greater
Yeah.
than somebody in their 40s and 50s, then yeah, net worth, right? You've got all that time now for those properties or that asset, whatever it might be, to appreciate
Yeah.
over that time. You know what I mean? So I think it just kind of depends.
Okay.
I look at both,
Yeah.
but right now, I'm 50, and when I see my net worth number going up, for me, it's kind of like a vanity number. It's just kind of like cool, right? Like we've
Hmm.
reached this point or and this point, and oh man, I gamify it a little bit. It's like, cool. How can I get to the next level?
Right.
But for me, what's really important now in where I'm at in life and where our family is I'm really looking at more as in, it's more important to get that cash flow every month, whether it's
Perfect.
from our rentals or from our property management, from coaching, like all of these things.
Okay. Perfect. So let's do both. So step number one is get clarity on your goal. I think we've narrowed it down to two different things. It's either going to be a cash flow or a net worth. Now, cash flow will affect your net worth, but net worth doesn't necessarily affect your cash flow, right? So as you increase your income, depending on your without, I mean, if you increase your lifestyle to match your income, then your net
It's
worth
a wash.
is not
Yeah.
going to. Okay, you and I both agree not to increase your lifestyle proportionally
Right.
to your. Okay, so everybody understands that principle. Do not increase your lifestyle to match the increase of your income. That
That
defeats the purpose.
lifestyle creep. Right.
Yeah. So, just for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to share my screen, and this is something that I hope that will help. But number one, start with the North Star. So I'm going to suggest let's start with net worth, and we're going to talk about how cash flow and income fits into that net worth. It can. I agree with you that the net worth tracking your net worth can become. You said a vanity number. I can definitely see that. It depends on why that number is important to you. If I heard a pastor preach a sermon that pride is the act of comparison. If you're using this to compare yourself to other people, I don't think that this is really helpful. However, if you're looking at, a combination of increasing my net worth, decreasing the time it takes before I'm able to retire, or, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you
Mm-hmm.
said freedom number. I think that's such a powerful term because, how much, what does your net worth need to be? What does your income need to be in order for you to have the freedom to do the things that you want? And that's really, when you go back to it, I think everybody that jumps into the world of real estate investing, it has to do more with freedom and spending more time with family, and
Yeah.
it's funny. Those are the same people that end up becoming the busiest people on the planet too. So
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and throw that out there for what it's worth. But number one, start with the North Star. You should write this on a piece of paper and you should put it somewhere where you're going to see it. I put as an example, increase my net worth by $250,000 in 2026. You can also say increase my income by 50,000 a year or whatever. This is a wealth building goal. It's it's funny. You said vanity number. This is not supposed to be a vanity metric. Like by 20 years, like you said. So we want to look at equity growth. So equity growth, um, the best way that I know to understand equity growth, you're basically saying if I buy $1 million property in the Houston area and multifamilies have been appreciating by 6 to 7% a year annually, then I can, at some point in the next 5 or 10 years, it's gonna be worth X. So you can add that appreciation. So that appreciation is number one. Cash flow. In order to understand this, we also call this ROI. It's the return on your investment. It's the money that's left over after you've paid the mortgage on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have talked about that there are people that are building wealth with negative cash flow. However, if you're not an experienced investor, probably you probably want to make sure that when you get into a property that at least at some point in the first year this thing will start to cash flow and you're not going to lose money. We want this to be a good investment.
Yes.
So appreciation is is going to be key because when you add the appreciation value to the cash flow and you factor in your loan pay down, your debt service, you're going to get what I believe is the most powerful metric in real estate. It's that IRR,
Hmm.
the internal rate of return. So the easiest way to explain the internal rate of return is the two things that Albert and I just spoke about. It's the cash flow. It's that ROI. It's the money left over after you pay that mortgage. That's number one.
Hmm.
Number two is the appreciation. It's how much that property is is improving in value year to year. When you add those two numbers together, you're going to get IRR. Any thoughts or questions, or do you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, I really, I know as a newbie, when I first started 5 years ago, I wasn't really even thinking about the tax benefits and like and like the equity growth. I was really just focusing on cash flow at the
Hmm.
time. And the equity, I was thinking about that because we would have 25% equity at the time we refinanced, according to the bank's appraisal and the loan that we had at the time. But I wasn't really thinking about like the growth over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember we had our call a few weeks ago, and you were kind of chat GPT in this when
Hmm.
we were looking at if you would have bought a property 10 years ago, like what would it actually be worth now based off the equity growth and how much that was just an eye opener for
Yeah.
me. So I don't have a lot to add to this, just that it's really important that people understand it.
Yeah, it is. And just to recap that, if you buy $1 million property with 25% down, so you put $250,000 down on the property, your investment is 250,000. The $1 million asset appreciates by let's just say 5% for easy math. That's $50,000. So you're receiving an improvement of equity by $50,000.
Mhm.
But your investment wasn't $1 million, your investment was $250,000. Well, 50,000 is 20% of 250. So that's a 20% return just with the appreciation.
Yeah.
If you have an 8% cap rate, or excuse me, if you have an 8% ROI, that's the money left over, that's your cash flow. Then you can add that 8% to the 20 and you have 28% IRR. And
Yeah.
that's incredibly powerful. Not only is it powerful because you're getting the benefit of $1 million property based on a quarter of the investment, but the appreciation's compounding. That's
Hmm.
compounding interest. So
Yeah.
what's 5% in year one is going to be 5.5 in year two, and then so on and so forth.
Yeah. No.
So start with the North Star. For 2026, for some people, it may be cash flow. It may be, improve my income. Um, by the way, just a executive decision. This is a two-part series, so we'll do the second half of this next week because there's a lot of good stuff in here, and I don't want to skip anything.
Okay.
And then, so if your goal is cash flow, that's fine. I still want to encourage you to track the net worth of, understand
Hmm.
how much that portfolio is improving. And then maybe in 2027, you'll look at it a little bit differently. But start with that North Star. Is it increase my net worth by X? It could be 250. I mean, it could be just pick a number,
Hmm.
or improve my income by X. And then understand how that works. We're not going to start with acquire 20 units because that's going to
Right.
be next. Because what we have to do is we have to establish a target IRR. And so you may just say, I have no idea what's reasonable. Fine, I'll tell you what's reasonable. 18%. Let's just start with 18%. Is that practical to get an IRR of 18%? Well, if you're putting 25 to 30% down, we are seeing deals like this a lot. And we're seeing buyers pass on these deals because the cash flow maybe is 7%.
Hmm.
So cash flow is not the only metric here. Now, if you're a cash flow person, yes, it is. If not, you got to add both these together. So let's assume an average IRR of 18% across the deals that you're planning, and then you're going to break that IRR into this component. So we mentioned this cash flow. This is a good rule of thumb to start with, 8%. You can play with this number depending on ultimately what your goals are. Understanding appreciation. So we know single family homes in the Houston market are in the fours. Oddly enough, Albert and I discovered on air that three bedrooms tend to appreciate more than four bedrooms historically. I didn't know that until until the but we also know that multifamilies appreciate more than single families. So it could be a fourplex. Um, so understanding the appreciation and then understanding your loan pay down, and this is just numbers that we uh, threw in there. Some people are going to get away with 10% down, 20, whatever.
Right.
And then talk to a CPA because there are tax benefits because a lot of that income, there's so many different ways to defer the taxable income and keep your personal income levels a little bit lower. If you're putting that money back into real estate, you don't have to pay taxes on that.
Right.
It's a great thing. And then there's deferred gains, there's depreciation, accelerated depreciation. Make sure you have a CPA that understands these things. And so when you combine those two or three metrics, then that 18% it is very possible. It is very possible. So I would really say that IRR is a really powerful number there.
It's very doable. I think it's very doable.
Yeah. Yeah. This is very doable. All right. So now that you kind of have an idea of the IRR, what we need to do now is we're going to focus on volume. Okay. This is not as complicated as it looks, but what you're going to need to determine is the amount of capital that you're going to need.
Is this calculus you're doing here? What is this?
Yeah, this is you can erase that part.
Go ahead.
I had this I copied and pasted it over here and it kind of anyways. So the amount of if you want $250,000 net worth at 18%, you're going I don't know why it looks like that, but you're going to divide 250. I'll get my little calculator out. 250,000 divided by 18%. Then this number right here, 1.38 million, approximately 1.4. So here's this number should be real clear. Thanks, Albert. So you'll need to know if I want an IRR of 250 in 2026, I'm going to divide that by 18% because 18% is my target IRR. That's all you're doing. You're getting a number, $1.4 million worth of property. This is assuming that I'm going to use a bank. I'm going to get, that 7.5% interest. I'm going to do 25-year amortizations. I'm going to do 25% down. Those are this like the blanket standard financing numbers. I'm going to finance it, everything like that. Now, if you can get the seller to finance these deals, that 18% is going to go through the roof. It's going to be way more than 18%, but this is just a very conservative approach to it. We're talking about 7.25% interest as of now. That's, basic commercial interest rates.
Okay.
25% down, with a 25-year amortization on the mortgage, that 18% is it's practical, it's possible. So in order to get that 250, you're going to need to acquire about $1.4 million worth of property somehow producing an average of 18%. So this number that helps.
You know what might be interesting? I don't know if we did this, but what about your client's property that just got under contract? And I know you and I were talking about the terms where the owner was willing to hold the note,
Yeah.
and the buyer was only having to bring about 10% down.
Yeah.
Like, how does that kind of fit in if their target was eight? I mean, they're probably getting a lot more than 18% IRR on that.
Yeah, they're getting an extremely high number on that IRR, but here's the catch on that. That 10% um that 10% down is only for 2 years. And so after
Right.
year two, they're going to have to refinance. So with that, and I don't think he's on the call, but with that buyer, what I coached that buyer, what I recommended that buyer to do is make a 10-year, pretend like you're going to hold this property for 10 years. Year one, what's your IRR? And not a percentage, but get the dollar. Like what's your return on your cash flow? Get your cash flow, then add your projected average appreciation. That's going to get your IRR. Get your IRR in a dollar amount. Do it on year two. Get the dollar amount of your IRR. Year three, you're going to refinance it. You're going to put more. You may be able to finance it without putting money into it, but if the bank's going to do like if the value of it hasn't reached
Hmm.
70%, the bank's going to put
70%.
70% into it. So he may have to put a little bit more money into it after year two because his down payment's so low. And then when he
Hmm.
refinances with the bank's going to require the loan to value is going to be less.
Got
Anyways,
it.
so his in year three, his IRR will drop. It's going to drop a lot. It may not drop to 18, but it's not going to be like 100%. Like his IRR is like 100% for the first 2 years. It's really high with that low down payment
Yeah.
because he's not really putting anything into it.
Right, right.
So that IRR is going to drop in year three, and so then you just plan it out. Take a 10-year period. Take the number IRR and then add it together and divide by 10, and you want to get an average internal rate of return over a 10 year. So year one, he may have an IRR of 100%, but when you average all 10
Hmm.
years together, it may be like 35% or
Right,
something like that.
right.
So you'll want to know that planned out because there may be he may know that the roof is 25 years old. So his plan may be to replace that roof in 2028. This is just hypothetically.
Right.
This is not the case with this particular property.
I got you.
But you can use that approach. And I know this is kind of rabbit trail, but I think this is a very powerful discussion. You can use that projection to say, okay, in 2028, based on how much the rents are increasing, based on projected improvements in appreciation, despite the fact that I'm going to have an extra $50,000 expense in 2 years, I'm mentally and financially prepared for that. My IRR in that year is going to be 5% or zero, or I don't know. It could be something lower, but you want to project out for these large expenses. You want to replace the ACs. You want to prepare for that ahead of time.
Hmm.
By the way, another rabbit trail, those are capital expenditures. And when we do our series on financial management of your properties, those capital expenditures need to go below the line, below the line for capex. So that was a long answer to a short question, Albert.
I like it.
Okay, so now we know I need $1.4 million worth of assets. Now, can we hit that number with less than 1.4 million? Yeah, we can. That's the target. But on roll, this is a good measurement. So what do I need to do? Well, there's a lot of different ways we can hit this. If you're focusing on single family homes, you may need 5 houses. You may need 6. Well,
Yeah.
there's 12
Depending
months
on
in
the
you,
area. Yeah. Hmm.
you know, or you may just need to buy one apartment complex or two small apartment complexes, two 8 units. You know, you decide. You decide, but to know, put volume before units is my recommendation. So it might be two properties, it might be six. It just depends on the property, uh, the price point.
Hmm.
So know your math. Know where you want to start. It may start with a $200,000 house, and then a $400,000 duplex, and then a $600,000 fourplex. You can scale it. But if you kind of put this volume number before and you use this 18% IRR, that's an anchor that's really going to kind of help guide the ship to where you want to go. So
I
recap.
like this too because I mean, with this calculation and this very achievable goal, right? I mean, you this $250,000 net worth for the year, right? That's your goal. I mean,
Hmm.
that's not necessarily an arbitrary number. I mean, it's a really good number to shoot for, because it's also very doable.
Yeah.
You know, it's very achievable. And we talked about SMART goals, right, last
Right.
week. So it's very achievable, and you can just rinse and repeat this. And as you get the processes and teams in place, and the processes and the people in place, right? Your experience level goes up, your confidence goes up, you're attracting
Hmm.
more private money to your deals. Where now it's like, well, let's go for $1 million this year,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Based off that IRR, now you can work backwards, which is kind of what we've been doing to figure out like how much property do I have to, you know, own to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
And when when you start with these big numbers, it may seem so big, for most people, this is going to this is going to be double what a lot of
Yeah.
people, a lot of people don't have a net worth of 250, or they don't have, you know, more than $100,000 in income. So by increasing their income by $50,000, that's a 50%. That's a huge deal,
Hmm.
you know? And so it seems big, it seems massive. However, when you understand how to break it down to an IRR using that 18% as your anchor, then acquiring $1.4 million of property, that it starts to get more tangible.
Yeah.
Richard, did you have something? Oh, he came off mute. He-
No, sorry, carried by a mistake.
So we'll go to this next one, and then what we're going to talk about next week is what that's going to look like on a daily basis
Yeah.
for a lot of people on this call. You're working full-time jobs, you're busy, you have a family, you don't have time to do all this. Wrong. You do have time.
Yeah.
It's not going to take a lot of time to do this. The key to success is consistency. So determine the amount of capital needed, $1.4 million. You don't need all 20% of this 200, $300,000. Yeah, you're going to start small. You're going to start with one.
Hmm.
So, number four, turn it into a quarterly or a monthly acquisition plan. You may want to just look at this as in a quarterly divided by four and track it quarterly. So let's assume your goal is to acquire four properties in 2026. You're, Here's how you break it down. Q1, I'm going to buy a property. That's it.
That's
For a
it.
lot of people, just buy something. Just
Yeah.
find something to buy.
Yeah.
Q2, buy one more property
Hmm.
and break it down. If you want to do single family homes, it may need to be two properties. It may be, start with one. If you haven't bought one, buy one. If you're buying properties and you have experience buying properties, my question to you would be, how would you rate your consistency with this process? And then have a goal, one closing every month. So we want to track our closings. And so what we'll get into next week is stuff's not closing like it used to right now.
No.
There are some challenges. Banks are hating on everything these days. You know, there are some major challenges with this part of the plan right here is closing on these deals. But we have a formula to kind of provide some clarity and how, to navigate to that closing
Hmm.
right there. We're going to talk about offers next week. We're going to talk about LOIs. We're going to talk about leads, and then finally we're going to talk about the daily activities necessary to turn this into a consistent business, because that's what we are. We are business owners.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I love this and where this particular discussion is going because it's very actionable. I mean, and that's really what we've been delivering over 30 episodes is things that you can take action on today. And it doesn't, when you kind of look at the big numbers, you can kind of get lost. Oh man, that's going to take forever to get that
Hmm.
$250,000,
Yeah.
in net worth. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that in a year. But once you put the numbers in place and you just kind of work backwards, we've been closing on a deal like average for the past 5 years, Austin. We've been closing one deal every 2 months, about
There you go.
like almost 6 deals per year for the past 5 years. And when we first started, we never even thought about metrics. Again, like working with you and being
Hmm.
around you, like you have a lot of data. You like to look into, like dig into the numbers, and I love that. It's brought a lot of value to our business and how we're looking at it and how we're building our business. But looking back now, we're closing on deal 29 this year, and I'm thinking, well, we just got started 5 years ago, so that's about 6 deals a year,
Yeah.
and that equals about one deal every 2 months, and then I can work backwards from that. Well, how many offers did I make to get that one deal
Yeah.
every 2 months, right? So I really love this discussion, man, especially for new investors. You don't have to know everything, and we've kind of pieced it all together, leading up to this point. But just being consistent, knowing your numbers, what we're going to talk about next week, right, is really getting all the way down to what your everyday looks like
Yeah.
and tracking that. That's just so important. Is tracking like what you do every day for this business. It's either a business or it's a hobby. If you want to be successful, you have to treat it as a business. You have to track these things.
Yeah.
You have to be serious about it. If you're just kind of going in willy nilly, like, oh, well, I woke up today, I don't feel good, so I'm not going to look at properties. I'm not going to write offers. I'm not going to call agents,
Right.
you know, and well, your business probably really isn't going to be successful either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's going to give us, yeah, getting some clarity on the habits, the conversations, you know, um, the conversations to have with the people in your network, whether it be
Hmm.
agents, wholesalers, making those off market calls. Um, so we're going to break into that. The secret to success is staying interested in what's boring. It's the mundane. It's the over and over and over again. It's the water drip on a rock. After 10,000 times, that water drip's going to start to crack that rock. But it takes time. It takes consistency. But you're living proof, my friend Albert, that if you're consistent with it and you stay the course, it gets bigger and bigger pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, and that's really the takeaway that I want for everybody on this call. If you just stay with it and just keep poking at it and just keep going every day, you don't skip a day, you'll have massive results over time. You will not see massive results. You may not see any results at first for weeks or months,
Hmm.
and then it starts happening. It it's exponential, you know.
Exponential.
So that's
Yeah.
the power of habits.
Yeah.
So, any final words?
Awesome. Cool. Cool.
No, no final words. Well, thank you,
Oh,
everybody.
final words. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I thought you said that's how it works. Final words. No, man. I'll just add one more kind of analogy. Is that you're planting all of these seeds and you're watering them daily, right? That's your actions that you take. And you're looking at the ground and you're thinking like, man, where are the results? I don't see anything. But, there's things that are going on underneath the ground.
yeah,
You're you're learning, you're putting in the reps, you're getting better. I said that already, you're learning more every day, but you have to keep watering your garden. You have to keep
100%.
tending to it. And then, like you said, once it breaks ground and it comes through the surface, you have this exponential growth. And you start seeing it every day. Oh my gosh, I got a new leaf, or I got an offer accepted,
Yeah.
right? And it's exciting and it's motivating. It's that lull in the beginning, right? Where motivation isn't going to be there, and it's the discipline and the consistency that you worked on day in and day out. And then not resting on your laurels. What we tell our students too is they get an offer accepted, and I'm like, okay, great, we're going to get started, we're going to focus on that, but don't lose focus. You should still be looking at deals, you should still be
Yeah.
underwriting deals,
100%.
because the market will continue to change, and if you're not keeping an eye on it, and you spend the next 6 months working on this property and now you're done and now you need to go look for another one, well, the market might have shifted and you don't even know about it,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, man, those are my last words. Now we're over. All
Success is simple. Have a good one. Thanks for being on.
right, man. See ya.
Bye.